Hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm Jeremy from Long Speed Marine. Today, I'm going to be redoing the motor mounts in the Mercury because I just wasn't happy the first time. So tag along and see how it goes. All right, so we've been working on the shop, doing some renovations around here. I've got my metal working area all sorted out finally for the most part. So we're back working on the Mercury, and I was never really happy with how I had the motor set in there. It is a 4.8 liter out of a 2004 Chevy truck, so LS based motor. So that's what's going in this, and I was never really happy with it. For some reason, the motor mounts were actually different sizes on either side. I don't know how I had the motor actually sat level, so I don't know if it's where I had it in the frame, but we're gonna look at that again and get new motor mounts made. I've got a couple different styles of actual mounts that I'm gonna use, so I'm gonna drag those out, put them on the bench, and figure out which mount I wanna use once we get the motor in there. So I'll get the motor dragged out, the mount's ready, and we'll get to setting the motor in this thing. Okay, so talking about motor mounts here, these are a bunch of different mounts that I can use because obviously I am doing this completely custom, so what is on the car side I'm making. So these are your standard LS motor swap brackets. This mount here will bolt right to this bracket, and then typically what happens on the frame of something like this A body here, like a Chevy Chevelle or Skylark or Camaro, stuff like that, there'd be a small little cup or piece on the other side, not a cup, but an actual bracket on the other side, which would fit up in here, and you just slide your bolt through. Pretty self-explanatory, probably makes sense. So on the car, what I would have to do is just make something that came up and fit in between these two ears. Or I've got another stock style mount. There's these ones, which I just borrowed from the C50. These would be your C10, 6772. I'm not sure what other years use them, but I know for sure 6772, all the Chevy trucks use these. One simple bolt in the center, and we'll mount up to this plate. So again, all I would have to do is make something that comes up, sits and rests on here, and then one bolt goes through to mount it in. Then you got your other style, sort of newer style Chevy mounts, and these actually go on the frame. So these are actually from a Chevy truck, you know, 80s Chevy truck, like a 1500, a C1500 OBS style Chevy truck. That's what these are for. So these actually bolt to the frame, and then they have a clamshell that goes over top of them. Now these are what I was originally using. I don't know why, just because I traditionally have used these. A lot of cars are G-body, same sort of style, it's just maybe a little bit smaller. But that's what I was originally using, and I didn't really like it. I didn't like how my bracket turned up on the motor side. So I don't think I'm gonna use those again. This is another style. This is just a basic biscuit style mount. I think this would be for, I don't know, this isn't Corvette, but this is like a Model A type mount, or would be like a flathead Ford style mount. So basically you've got your puck here that goes on top, you'd make a flat bracket, and then this piece would go underneath and sandwich in between like that. And basically you would just drop the motor down onto this. You'd make another pad that would sit on the top like that, and it would basically just bolt through like that, and that's all that it would be. So this is actually the style that I'm leaning towards because I think it looks a little bit cleaner than any of these other styles. So this is what I'm going to try and lean towards here on this. If not, I may actually just go and rob these from the C50 and use this style with a single bolt in the middle because it's pretty simple. So let's get the motor set in the car and start leveling it up to where it should be, and we'll go from there. So these are the original clamshells that I made up that sit onto those other mounts. So it would basically just sit on this mount like this, and there's your motor mount. But yeah, I'm not happy with those. My skills have come along since I made these, and I frankly don't like them. All right, so here's where we're at. I've got the motor set in and centered as best I can. I'm trying to measure up as best I can, but there's not really a good spot on these blocks to measure to, so I'm pretty sure that's center. Or as close as it's gonna be for, you know, I'm trying my best here. So these motor swap mounts, if you want to run the stock truck air conditioning, which happens to be down on the lower side here. I'll get you in here in a minute and just show you. These brackets, you'd actually have to cut the front of this bracket off. So basically right here, really, you'd have to cut this front sort of elbow off. Now that wouldn't work for certain applications either, because the mount may have to come all the way up to the front. So that's a limitation with these. If you want to run that stock air conditioning. So that was my plan, was to run all these stock pulleys, and I'm just sort of sitting here thinking, do I really want to do that, and do I change my mind? Anyways, let me show you what's going on here now. Okay, so I've got the motor pretty much centered here in the frame and sitting up where I want it to sit so that the oil pan is not hanging down low. Now I'm using the truck oil pan in this, and maybe you can see it's not, you know, we're not hanging down below the cross member, and that's good. So trying to save a little bit of money here and not have to buy the Camaro or Hot Rod Swap oil pan. So I've got it up quite high so the oil pan's not hanging down below. You can just see it below that cross member, but it's not lower than the actual frame. So that's where that's sitting. Now I did want to run the stock power, alternator, air conditioning. So I wanted to run the stock air conditioning, but these motor swap brackets get in the way of those. And the other thing is I'm gonna have to notch the frame out to sit it in there. Originally, the way I had this motor sitting, I thought that I would be able to fit in between there the stock air conditioning and not have to notch the frame, but it seems now that I've got where I've got the motor sitting now, I guess maybe I didn't have it straight before. So I can't fit that air conditioning in there without notching the frame. So now I got a little bit of thinking to do of whether I'm gonna run these pulleys or notch the frame or not. So what I'm trying to decide now is basically what brackets to use. If I do want to run the air conditioning, like I said, I'll have to trim on the other side. I'll have to trim this front part here of this bracket off. And the mount moved back is not a big deal, so it will actually end up in these holes here and here-ish. So one there, anyways, whatever it is. It ends up just over top of that one bolt. So that does work if I want to use stock Chevy style brackets. Now, if I make my own brackets, what I would do, is basically just take this plate like I did before, and these are pretty ugly. I mean, I tried my best to make this sort of hoop part, and that was the hardest part actually, is making this part nice and round, and anyways, I don't like those. So I can take these plates that I've got and basically just make a motor side here, and then what I would do is bend up another piece of plate somewhat to look like this, which would mount off of that, and then what would happen is these puck style mounts would basically go like this, and so then that would be, this would be on my motor like that, and I would just basically duplicate this sort of on the frame, make a piece to come off the frame that this would sit off on the other side. So that's what I'm just trying to decide now, whether I do this or still go ahead with using these motor swap brackets and stock style Chevy mounts, whichever one I pick. So just got a little bit more thinking to do on that. So I started thinking, they're just 4 equal holes. Why can't I put the driver's side one on the passenger side so that that little front lip isn't hanging forward, and put the passenger side one on the driver's side? So I've got the driver's side one here. I'm just trying this on. I'm going to go to the other side to see if the passenger side one will work. And because then if I want to run that stock AC, it will fit. So far this bolts up. Nothing seems to be in the way. Everything's tight, yeah. Okay, so let's go to grab my passenger side. So let's see now if this passenger side one will work on the driver's side. I don't see why not. Okay, so then that puts the bracket out of the way of any of my stuff. Okay. Well, this is hopefully going to save quite a bit of time. So I'll just get 2 bolts in this for now. Snug that in. Okay, let's go back over to the other side. Snug this up. Now it is putting me a bit farther back, but come on, where is it? Over there. God. Okay. All right. So it's put this side here quite far back. So let's see now what happens with these rotor mounts. These are those Camaro A-body style ones. I think that's what I'm going to use. I've decided. Where's my... Okay, so that's putting me a little ways back. Okay, so now you can see there's my pad on the frame, and so I'm basically way behind that now with this mount. So I'd have to do something weird here. Even this additional frame piece that I put on, I'm still going to be even farther back from that. So I don't really like that. Don't like that at all. Okay, next, plan C. All right, so I decided I'm going to use these brackets, so I'm just going to go ahead and trim this ear off, and hopefully this should work. Okay, so we just trimmed that off. I'll give it a little cleanup on the belt sander, and we'll go from there. All right, so there's how it turned out. Now let's go get this on the motor. All right, so we'll get these bolted on. And then we'll get the motor mounts bolted on. All right, I'm going to go and test my AC bracket now. If this fits, then the AC should actually fit. Oh, and it doesn't. Okay. Bummer. I don't know if I can get you guys in here to see this, but the back of this bracket is just hitting the mount bracket. So I'm gonna have to take that off and totally cut that bottom ear out of the way. Yeah. Where'd it go? There it is. Oh, goody, goody, goody. Okay. All right, I've decided I'm actually going to just make up the actual mount first, get the motor mount bolted on, and see where the mount's gonna end up before I go to trimming all that out. Okay, well, I can't believe it, actually. I just had a piece that was just the right size, so to fit right in there. And so this is what I'm gonna do. Basically just use this square tube and it'll get welded to the frame. Oops. And what I'll do is I'll just notch in my round tube right here. So I'll take the motor mount back out and figure out where this is going to go, and then I will notch in my round tube, the width needed for the motor mount, for the bolt to go through, and that'll be it. But I think that's going to work. All sides should be the same. Should be. Basically. Yeah. So if I make both sides exactly the same, so I'll just cut another piece the same as this, and we'll be good to go. Perfect. Okay, so what I've done is I basically just did a pilot hole with a, I don't know, whatever size bit that is, and then I'm just going to use my step bit now to get up to the size for this, so that I can feed that through, and then what I will do is I will center it up and weld that sleeve in. Okay, so I got these welded up and thought I recorded it, but I guess I didn't. So here we are. Anyways, I got that the sleeves welded in there. I used my TIG welder. I haven't TIG welded for a while, so that was interesting. But turned out all right. So that's the sleeve welded in there, and that will fit right up inside there and actually even sit on that ridge at the top of this motor mount. Be able to get the bolt through there, and so now I'm just going to get it in the car and get this tacked, basically just tacked in there, because then I'll pull the motor out and fully weld these back up. But that's what we're doing now. course I dropped a bolt. Come on. Gosh, these are a bit finicky. There we go. Oh, where's my other bolt? The bolt. Oh, it's all the way over there. There we go. Man, this motor's crusty. Oh well, it was cheap. That's mainly the reason why I'm running this motor. I was going to originally run the flathead in this thing, but it was just so expensive to get parts and build it and whatever, so it just didn't make sense. It was literally going to cost me close to 5,000 bucks to build the flathead. This motor and tranny I bought for $250 with the computer, complete accessories. It's sat around for a long time now. I got it basically right when I got the car. So it's sat around for quite a while now, but anyways, that was the reason why I went with this motor, because it was just so cheap. I even looked around for small block Chevys at the time, and a small block Chevy and tranny, like 700 R4 package, was still going to be anywhere from, you know, around $1,000 what most people want for them, a decent running one. So I happened to know the fellow that I got this from, and came out of a truck of his own. The truck just rotted away, which is why the motor's kind of crusty, but yeah, that's how I ended up with this. 250 bucks. Okay, I'm just going to get these tacked into place now. Ooh. So there's our motor mounts done. Pretty simple, easy for the most part. I mean, took a while to get it set up and decided what I was going to do, but really just a simple execution of motor mounts, and those will do the trick. So hey, thanks for tagging along with this video of doing the motor mounts. Please remember to hit that subscribe, smash the like, add a comment down below, and follow along with all my other builds. Thanks very much, and take care.